Hello and welcome to this short video clip on how to use the hybrid model of teaching, learning and assessment. It's a model that was developed by Wendy Martin, head of Stansted Airport College. So the model isn't designed to tell you what content to put in your lesson, nor how to structure your day or how to teach. The model is purely designed if you are in a situation where you've got half of your class in college and the other half learning at home online. What we'd like you to know as a result of watching this video clip is what your options are for structuring an engaging hybrid lesson. What we'd like you to do is to choose one of the many options that we're going to show you today and take that away to practice. I'd like to go into Pro Observe and record a reflection under staff development of what you may have taken away from the session. As with all skill development, practice, practice, practice is the key to improvement. There are two aims for the hybrid model. One is to make sure that the learners online have equality of access to a really high quality and engaging learning experience, the same as the learners in college are. Also, because the group is split in half, the model is designed to build social connections between the group that's in college and the alternating group that is at home. Otherwise, there's a possibility that these two groups might never have any interaction or even actually meet with each other. So here we can see the model, and I'm going to walk you through it from the beginning of the day, where at the start of the day both groups would register at the same time. So if we're starting a class at 9:30, the online group would appear with the device on Teams in the classroom at the same time as students are arriving, with taking the register and going through the 4 steps of success and what the activities are for the lesson during the day. Both groups would then move into a shared learning activity, with the normal Q&A sessions built into the learning activity. And they would do this in parallel. Then moving through the session, the idea is then that the online group would collaborate together to create a short quiz that the in-college group would have to answer the questions to. And likewise, the in-college group would also create the same quiz, different questions to ask to the online community. Moving through the day, there might then be another learning activity, or it might then go into a paired activity where 1, 2 or 3 learners from the in-college group would be paired up with 1, 2, 3 learners on the online community to carry out a collaborative activity and produce some work as a result. Then towards the end of the morning, late morning, early afternoon, the online community would work independently on assignment completion initially, and the in-college group would be issued with any assignment work tasks to take home. They would then go home to complete those tasks. The teacher would then be free to work independently or as a small group with the online students. So what we're going to do now is just break that down a bit further and see what each step might look like. We're going to give you options for the simplest possible way to implement this model, going through more sophisticated options with more and more apps. So hopefully there'll be something in here for everybody. Before we do any of this, you might like to pause the video at this point and just think about what apps you are familiar with currently, what apps you like, what apps you use, what the students like, what apps you're confident using. The one thing that we must use is Teams, so we need to be able to use Teams confidently, at least at a basic level, as a video platform, and probably chat. We need to be confident with using chat within Teams. Then also to think about what learning resources you use currently. That could be also shared online. So if you want to, it'd be a good point to pause this video and just make a note of what apps you're currently using and you're confident with, and what learning resources you currently use that are available online. So focusing in more closely on what this joint learning activity might well look like. So we've got the teacher in the classroom with a device that's connected to Teams, and we've got the students in the room, and we've got the other half of our group who are online on Teams. So this learning activity, at its most basic, if you use PowerPoint, you're familiar with PowerPoint and your lessons generally revolve around a PowerPoint, you can still continue to use the PowerPoint. You'd use that in Teams, so it'd be showing on a projector or a TV screen in your class, and it would also be shared on your Teams presentation. So the students at home would be seeing the same PowerPoint slides. The key with PowerPoint is really to keep the number of slides down and to keep the text to an absolute minimum, as it's really not an engaging experience for students online or even in the classroom. Really use images wherever possible. Make sure that the PowerPoint slides are regularly interrupted with directed questions. Now these directed questions need to go equally to the students that are in your classroom as they do to the students online. So you need to ask the student by name to unmute and answer the question you're directing to them. If they're not able to answer, you can de-escalate the question or move it to another online learner. But questions must be directed, and of course over the course of the lesson you need to make sure that all students online and in class are included in the questions. So oral questioning through Teams is the easiest way to engage both the online students and the in-class. Have the microphone on your device so that the online learners can hear answers from your classroom students, and have the speakers turned up on your device so that the in-class students can hear the answers coming from the online students. So an alternative to oral questioning of students is to use chat. So chat would give you the opportunity to ask all learners at the same time for a response. And this would require then your in-class students to be on Teams as well and in the same meeting so that everybody could see the chat results. So try and keep if they're wordy answers, try and keep the answers short, down to a few words, or better still, make it as a multiple choice so that then learners can just type A, B, C or D into the chat window, and then obviously you as the teacher can then respond to the answers coming in. Multiple choice also helps to keep the lesson going quite well if you're using chat for them to respond. You could interrupt the PowerPoint with an activity in Shobi. Again, all learners can access this, so the students that are in your class can go onto Shobi and complete the activity at the same time as your online learners go in and complete the activity on Shobi. Lots of staff use Shobi for all kinds of different activities in class. Nearpod is another way of sharing the results and feedback from a question activity. So even if you're not familiar with Nearpod, it does have a collaboration board facility in it, which is very easy to use. So you pose the question, and then both your in-class learners and your online learners respond to that on the Nearpod Collaborate board. Everybody can see the answers. It's very much like using a post-it note activity where all students were in class. And of course, Mentimeter is another popular app that many teachers use. And again, all students would be able to see and share the responses to your questions on the screen. Lots of teachers use videos in their lessons, and it's another resource that you can use with both groups at the same time. So you can choose if you want to share a video on Teams so that the online learners can see it, or they can have direct access to the video depending on where it is. There needs to be some interaction. If the video is short, the questions can be after it. If the video is longer, then either the video needs to be paused or questions need to be incorporated into the video itself. So if you're controlling the video, you can pause it at the appropriate points, and again you can direct questions to your in-class group, you can direct questions to your online group. You can source videos, of course, from YouTube, so you will have specialist sites for your own subject areas. We've also got Planet eStream, where we can access videos from television and other sources as well. And Nearpod will also upload videos. Now, the advantage of Planet eStream and Nearpod is that it's extremely easy to embed questions within the video. So both of those have that facility, and again with an iPad your online students and your in-class students will be doing exactly the same activities at the same time with the same learning experience. Okay, so getting a little bit more complex now as another alternative to keeping both of the groups in parallel through their learning day is to use Nearpod. Again, if you're familiar with and use PowerPoint, it's reasonably easy to upload a PowerPoint, a small PowerPoint, to Nearpod. And then you've got the choice of setting that Nearpod to be teacher-led for both groups. So you as the teacher might decide to lead your group in class where they would see it up on the main screen, whilst your online learners would see it on their iPad. Nearpod has the ability to build in lots of different types of activity. So again, all students would be completing those activities at the same time, and they would be able to see each other's activity. You as the teacher within Nearpod are able to share particular learners' responses to questions. If they're particularly good that you want to share them with others, you can show those to your online learners and your in-class learners. You could choose to just lead the Nearpod for your in-class group and allow your online students to work their own way through the Nearpod. That will be an alternative. Or you could go student-paced for both. So once the Nearpod is set up, then both your in-class learners and your online would be working self-paced through the Nearpod. So several options there with Nearpod, if that's an app that you are confident with using. Okay, so we're looking at some more options here now. So this is where the two groups would split rather than being taken through the same learning activity together. You would lead the learning in your class with your normal activities, and the online learners would be studying the same subject but using different resources. So this is a question of what resources you've got for them to access, and here is a short list of some of the many options that are available for you to direct your students to. So Blended Learning Consortium it has interactive activities on it for most curriculum areas, and that can be found on the Cube. Khan Academy also has interactive learning activities for most academic areas. You may well have your own specialist websites with learning activities on that you'll direct students to. Also on the Cube, there's Gale OneFile, which has got many different resources on there that learners could be directed to, and eBook Central. You've also got on Cube online resources. So these are just a few of the resources that learners could be directed to. They need to work through those resources within a set period of time, and then have a time when they rejoin the Teams meeting again to work with the other group in creating their quiz. So the learning checks for both your in-class group and your online group would be the same, although the method of learning will be different. So these are going through an in-class activity, these are going through an online activity, but the same topic. But they then complete learning checks through the same activity, which could well be on Shobi, again, popular activity, or if you've got apprentices or any students that are using OneFile, they can be through OneFile. So they'll all complete the same activity learning check. The nice thing about having the different resources for the online group is when they get to the quiz, they'll be able to compare what they've learned from their online resource activity compared to what they've learned in the class, and this is where they share their learning within the quiz. So let's say what you're teaching today is a practical subject, which could be a studio-based, salon, workshop, or in a laboratory. It's thinking about how to manage that activity, which is, can't necessarily be replicated in an online situation. So you're with your half of your group and taking them through a practical activity. The online community, the options for the online community, I'm very lucky with my subject. I have online simulators that will work just as well, if not better probably, than what I teach in the resources in class. So in terms of building electronic circuits and coding up microcontrollers, there are simulators online where the students online can do exactly the same work using the same tools and technologies that the in-class group are doing. That's not available, of course, to all subjects. So what else could they do? Is there theory that they could be working on that is related to this practical activity, in which case, of course, when you alternate the groups around the next week, they'll just reverse round. Could they be building a portfolio of evidence, depending on what they've got to do? Could they be storyboarding, perhaps the practical activities that they've done in their past? So if they've done a practical activity in college and taken pictures or recordings of that activity, could they be creating a storyboard around it on Padlet that's a requirement for their evidence, or putting something on Padlet that could be used for employment purposes? Have they got assignments they can be working on or completing whilst you're working with the practical tasks? Is it possible for them to peer assess the practical work that the in-college group are doing? So there's a few options that you could consider for where you're teaching a practical class in college with the other half of your group online. So after completion of the learning activity, the interactive learning activity, we then get to a stage where the online community will meet as a group in teams, and either you or they will nominate a team leader who will enter the questions, who will create the questions, and will also be responsible for answering the questions to the other group. Meanwhile, in class, your students in class will collaborate together to write a set of quiz questions for the online community to ask. Then it's a question of how you present these questions to each group. So let's go with the most basic option first, and that's just to put the questions in the Teams chat. So if the online community goes first, the team leader will know what the questions are and will type them one at a time into the chat, whilst the in-class group collaborates to answer the question, and it's the team leader's responsibility to respond to the question that's in chat. So that's kind of just a simple option. Another option would be for both groups to just create a PowerPoint slide that had all the questions on, and then share their screen and to go through it one at a time. Nearpod is a great way, again, the Collaborate board in Nearpod is a great way for students to share information so that all of them can see it. So another option there. Or of course, another option is most students quite like Kahoot. So each group could create their own Kahoot for the other group to answer. So a few options there for how to facilitate the cross-group quiz. Following on from the quiz, there might then be another learning activity, or certainly an instructional period, where the next paired collaborative activity is undertaken. So in this, students are paired with the online community with the in-college group. So you would select 1, 2, maybe maximum of 3 possibly students who are online, put them in one group and put them with, again, 1, 2 or 3 students from the in-college group. So it's a little paired group activity, but rather than being all in college, you're getting the online students to work with the in-college group. So they will need to be in the same Teams meeting. As Teams does have breakout rooms now, or you could just set up separate meetings. All the students could call each other. So there's several different ways that could be facilitated. And as the teacher, you'll be in the class and able to monitor what's going on with each one of the groups. There needs to be some kind of assessment activity as to what they've learned, what they've produced as a result of that. And there are several different ways we could think about collecting that evidence as well. So we could think about in the buddy activities, how do we collect this evidence? Where we've got two or more paired in line, they're meeting on Teams, it's a collaborative activity and they're sharing screens. So the completed activity could be again on Shobi, as before. Flipgrid is a great way, students love Flipgrid, so now they're going to get together and they're going to create a short video clip to answer that response. Nearpod, and another one, of course, Padlet is another way that we could put the results, the shared results of this collaborative activity online and available for everybody to see and for the teacher to give feedback on. So then sort of post-paired activity, then what will happen, so we're talking now late morning, early afternoon, typically, the online community would go to independent study or independent completion of their assignment. The in-college group would be briefed by their teacher on what work they've got to complete at home, and then would go home to complete that. The teacher would then be free mid to late afternoon to support the online community independently. And so there we go. That should hopefully go some way to supporting you with the use of the hybrid model of teaching, learning and assessment. Thank you so much for clicking on the video and taking the time to watch the video through. Good luck with practicing. Start with the simple stuff and gradually experiment with the push the boundaries and experiment with the more complex stuff. Good luck with it all and hope to see you soon. Bye for now.